How to discern if a church has grace or not? Is it true that if the bishop teaches heresy, then all the jurisdictions connected with that bishop become graceless immediately? No, it's not true. We've been talking about this for years. Look at my videos online, uh, the Zealot Jungle and all these others that we have a playlist about the problem with the temptation on the right, which embraces this ecclesiology. So let's think about this for a minute. Is it true that if a bishop teaches heresy, then all the jurisdictions connected with that bishop become graceless? It's so absurd. It's utterly absurd to think about that. It's legalistic and it's magical. So if somebody, let's just take to show the absurdity of this. Somebody's in Africa. There's bishops all over Africa. They're teaching heresy. And people all around the world may or may not even know about this teacher of heresy. And the bishops around them are being, indifferent, or they're worldly, or maybe they agree with him, or maybe they're just not empowered to do anything, or maybe they're not doing what they should be doing, like really resisting him. And so he continues to teach his heresy in his diocese, and then maybe a couple other people start liking his ideas. And when exactly does it mean, like, what's the magical moment that everybody loses the grace of God because they, wherever they are in the face of the earth, didn't do what? Break communion with him? And what's the consequence of that? What kind of ecclesiology would that lead to? Total division of not just those people from the preacher of heresy, but from themselves, from among themselves. Orthodox would be divided with other Orthodox because different people would react in different ways. So with the heresy of ecumenism, we have some local churches that are totally ecumenist and some local churches that are resisting ecumenism. We have the Church of Georgia that has synodical decisions against the branch theory, and removed themselves from the World Council of Churches and taught that and rejected the various heretical ecclesiological theories. They've actually taken a lot of steps with the Church of Bulgaria, which removed itself from the World Council of Churches, which has issued statements against the various heretical, ideas in ecumenism. And there are many good bishops there who reject ecumenism, as there are in the Church abroad. And others. So those two local churches, they haven't broken communion with the various bishops who are teaching heresy. So they're all, even though they teach Orthodoxy, even though we have saints from these churches and recently glorified saints, they're all heretics. Like, so St. Paisius, St. Porphyrio, St. Iakovos, St. Gabriel, St. Justin Popovich, he didn't break with the Serbian church. He's a heretic. He's graceless. I mean, it's absurd. It's stupid. It's dumb. Why do people even pay attention to these theories? This is not reality. Go back to the 4th century. I've talked about this so many times. Go back to the 4th century. You have, after the First Ecumenical, none of the old calendars / zealot, not according to knowledge people ever talk about this. They just ignore it. They say, oh, it's just not right. Whatever. I'd like to hear an answer to this. So you go back to the 4th century. After the First Ecumenical Council, which has condemned Arianism, of course, Arianism continued to live, came back again and again with the various emperors who were entertaining it. And then you have hierarchs who are elected in part by Arians who become saints of the church. I've already mentioned this tonight. St. Meletius of Antioch, who ordained Bishop St. Basil and St. John Chrysostom, who was the father of the Second Ecumenical Council, who they embraced as a great father at that council. He was elected in part by Arians in his diocese. They thought he was going to be Arian. It says right there in the life of St. Meletius. They thought he was rejected, and there was a schism in his diocese because some people were zealots and they didn't accept him because he was partly elected by Arians and he wasn't kicking the Arians out quick enough, and he received some of the Arians by economia or something. And so they became zealots and said he's not the real bishop because he had been exiled, and then they elected another bishop. And that was the schism, the famous schism with Paulinus. So, and they were supported by the people of the West, but the Orthodox in the East supported Meletius. So St. Meletius would be graceless according to this, because it was after the council. I mean, this is even more egregious because it's hard to accept that, because we say, well, once the ecumenical council is established, you can't have communion with any of the people who've been condemned. And yet we do actually see that happen. There was some communion on some level because they elected him. They thought he was like them, and they elected St. Meletius. Same thing with St. Cyril of Jerusalem, the great teacher of the catechetical school, which we treasure his teachings, right? He was partially elected by Arians. Same thing with St. Ambrose of Milan. Read the life of St. Ambrose from Milan. Some of the people in his diocese, his parish, they thought he was an Arian, and that's why they elected him. So this stupid theory, I'm going to get more and more, strident about it, because it's just dumb, and it's just coming in and it's upending the struggle against ecumenism. It's actually demonic, because it takes people away from the struggle. It takes them into division. It creates divisions. It's legalistic. It's short-sighted. It's not organic. It doesn't come from the saints of our day. The saints of our day don't have this ecclesiology. Even those who were on the old calendar don't have this ecclesiology. They didn't teach this idea. Graceless, immediately graceless, because that bishop started teaching heresy. If you look at Canon 15, which is what's cited by these people, which is a canon, which is a beautiful canon, it doesn't support this idea. It doesn't say you got to break, otherwise you're graceless. There's none of that talk like there. It supports somebody who confesses and ceases commemoration. It doesn't condemn them if they don't. It doesn't say that immediately the person they cease commemoration, he's immediately like, everybody's graceless, because like 5 minutes ago he had grace, and now he ceased commemoration. Now he has grace. The bishop's graceless. I mean, it doesn't add up. It's very legalistic. It's very legalistic, this whole theory. It's far more difficult to explain. Church history is filled with all kinds of things that are difficult to put in little boxes. The short answer is follow the saints, the consensus of the saints in our 20th century. They don't espouse this kind of legalistic ecclesiology. They don't. They fight ecumenism in their own way, some of them differently, some others. They don't do that. Saint Seraphim of Bulgaria, a great fighter of ecumenism, went to Moscow with Patriarch Sergius, or maybe it was other patriarch after him. I can't remember what year exactly Patriarch Sergius left. I think it was Patriarch Sergius. 1948, I think he was still there. Anyway, it was definitely Sergius and his stick. And he went there and he participated in the council. He must have communed with them. And he's a fighter of ecumenism. What do you do with that? Like, why? Was he a big compromiser? Let's get a little more serious. This is like not serious. Okay.